Hi everyone, I'm Dr.Animaction. Welcome to the Personnel Office. It's no secret that I absolutely love G.I. Joe, and quite frankly, I just don't get enough chances to talk about the property specifically. This series is going to be short videos that allow me to rectify that. I'm combining my love of the Joes with my own military experience, which is fairly broad and deep and touches on all 4 branches over 12 years. I'll be looking at each character, their file card, and their equipment, and giving a real-world rundown on all of it. I won't be covering all of their appearances or personality or anything, just a real-world examination of the design of the character and their history. Want to know what order I'll be doing them in? Check the insert catalogs starting with 1982, and I'll be going in numerical order based on those. I hope you enjoy this experiment, and let's jump in with our first character, number 1 in the 1982 catalog, Grunt. Grunt is the Joe team's original infantryman, which is somewhat misleading, as several of the original Joes are actually infantrymen, which you'll be seeing as we go along. Being infantry means that his military operating specialty, usually referred to as an MOS, is 11 Bravo. My first few years in the Army were spent as an 11 Bravo, so this is one I'm familiar with firsthand. If you're wondering where he got his code name, and why infantrymen in general got the slang title of grunts, well, it's because of the noises we make when we gear up with hundreds of pounds of weapons, ammo, food, and various other equipment. Kind of a mocking term because we travel by foot, carrying everything we need with us. Grunt's file card lists a pair of secondary military specialties as well. For educational purposes, the only way to actually have a secondary MOS in the real military is to attend a second school called Advanced Individual Training, or AIT, which is a school everyone goes to after basic training to learn their main MOS. Usually this only happens by reclassifying or changing jobs, which is usually due to some extenuating circumstances, or because you chose to do so as part of a re-enlistment package. I actually had 2 MOSs because I did reclassify during a re-enlistment. Most people in the Army never get a second one though. In Grunt's case, it's possible, as he has a secondary listed as Artillery Coordinator, which is a totally different MOS, designated 13 Foxtrot, or Fire Support Specialist. These guys are part of the artillery branch, though, and they usually don't hang out with the infantry on missions. It's more likely that Grunt has just been specifically trained on call for fire, which is one of the test points to receive an expert infantry badge, so most infantrymen are actually familiar with the process. Grunt's file card also lists Small Arms Armorer under secondary, which isn't an MOS, but rather just a supplementary school that can be attended without reclassifying. There are hundreds of schools like this in the military, and you'll see in this series that they're the more likely circumstances for a lot of the Joes. The other items of note on his file card are that he's an E4, which can either be a specialist or a corporal, but as it doesn't specify, we can probably assume specialist. That means he's junior enlisted, and as an infantryman is in a fairly rapid promotion branch, so probably has less than 3 or 4 years of active duty at this point. And lastly are his weapons qualifications, of M14, M16, and M1911A1. These were pretty standard at the time, though the M14 had been phased out by the mid-70s, and the .45 caliber M1911 would be replaced by the 9mm M9 in 1985. It's also worth noting that most infantrymen don't qualify on a pistol unless they're assigned a crew-served weapon like a machine gunner or they're an officer. Let's finish this up by looking at Grunt's gear, though. There are a couple aspects of this, the first being the accessories that his figure came with, and the second the molded details. If we look at the molded pieces, he's wearing an era standard set of web gear, which is what we call his belt and suspenders. There are several pouches on those, as well as on his arms and legs, and they most likely contain some gear that's standard issue to infantry, like a compass and field dressing, but the rest could pretty much contain anything else. Missing from this, though, is the almost guaranteed 2 canteens and 2 ammo pouches that every infantryman's going to be carrying on their gear. He also has a knife and a Mark II fragmentation, or pineapple grenade. That's not very era appropriate, as they were replaced with the M67 baseball grenades in the late 60s. I also can't say having an unscabbarded knife is very accurate either, since as infantry we spend a lot of time face down and crawling through the dirt, and the last thing you want in that situation is an exposed blade rubbing on your ribs. As for his accessories, he has a helmet, which every soldier does, an M16A1, though it's not really to scale, and an also really tiny backpack, but this is all pretty era standard too. The only thing you may all be wondering about is that teeny backpack after my explanation of where the name Grunt comes from. Well, that's most likely what we call an assault pack, which is a smaller backpack that we carry in our bigger ones. We don't ever want to actually go into combat carrying every piece of gear we own, so for patrols or ambushes or other such missions, we'll usually pack a smaller bag with just what we need for that mission, like some food, extra ammo, maybe a poncho if it looks like rain, so that's actually not unrealistic. But that's Grunt, and how he stacks up to a real-world equivalent of himself. I hope you all like this quick little video, as I plan on continuing them for my own amusement, if nothing else. Let me know your thoughts about it in the comments. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned and stay tuned, as in cartoons. Later.